tight.
Designers, welcome to the studio. This is the place where, after each challenge, the losing designers come to discuss each one of your individual contributions to the space, and at the end, one of you will be eliminated. This week's challenge was to design an outdoor patio space. Each one of you was responsible for choosing an instrument and then having it manifested into the space, but you were still responsible for an overall cohesive design concept, almost like a band comes together to create a song. And instead, we kind of got a cacophony of dissonant noises. Tom, let's focus on what instrument you had and how we actually see that in the space.
Sure. Well, I had the saxophone, and I do get an extremely New York feel to it. I think of film noir, I think of the big bands. So, for instance, I felt the daybed had the streamlined look of a tuxedo with the soft drapery, and then that swoop chair with the yellow was my literal translation of the sax.
I could definitely see your presence in that corner of the patio. However, we look at your corner, and it doesn't look like anything else on that patio. And it was very clear in the challenge. It was about showing your inspiration and then pulling the entire thing together. All right, Alex, tell us about the instrument that you chose and how that translated to this patio space.
The instrument I chose were the congos. And the first thing I thought about when I thought about it is more of an escalation. For me, it's kind of like you lose control a little bit. So when I wanted to incorporate the curve of the deck was something that I really liked in there because it just reminds me of movement. And then also, it's not really like a formal instrument, so I wanted a really organic feel, and things kind of spread around, so like it's kind of an organic collection of things to make one really sweet rhythm.
Alex, I think you're getting bogged down in the literal translation of the visual. I see blue congas, but I see blue pillows. Just because it's this beautiful round shape and this beautiful blue color, that's not an emotion.
Well, one of the things that there was also in the plans were, of course, the daybed, which was actually made of bamboo, and it was shaped like two rounded shapes like a congo. That didn't get into the space.
We had bought a daybed, and it didn't make it upstairs because it was too big.
Come on, guys. I mean, Alex, you know that you have to measure how do you get something from point A to point B, because right now, that is on you. Trent, tell us what your musical instrument was and how we see it in the space.
I picked the keyboard, which I love. It's definitely, it reminds me of party, fun, good times. The barbecue represents the keyboard to me, not only by the look, but anytime there's a party, there's usually a barbecue. As well as the seats in front of it, if you pull them apart, they have the keys to the seats. And that's what represented the keyboard for me.
For me, the word party is just so vague, especially when it comes to a terrace. So it was hard for me to really differentiate where you were living within it. Did those chairs say to me, party? I don't know, not really.
Tom, what would you have done had you been assigned the keyboard?
You know, I think it's a difficult instrument because it has so many different sounds to it and can play a lot of different roles. And I think of it as dramatic. So for me, more lounge setting.
Michael, tell us about what your instrument was, how you were inspired by it, and how we actually see it in this space.
So my instrument was the trombone, and I thought there was a real sly factor to the way that the trombone kind of works. So the way that I incorporated it into the space was through that feature wall. It was actually these reclaimed pieces of wood from like construction barriers.
Michael, the trombone and your use of the word sly, I think, are perfect partners and a beautiful description. And I saw that right away when I walked out onto the terrace.
That art piece, I'm a little bummed out that it's not more centrally focused because it's one of the stronger elements in your space. Let's look at your contribution to the space, Cortland. Tell us what instrument you had and how we actually see that in the space, please.
For me, the first thing I think of when I hear the cello is I want to relax. And another place that has inspired me the way that the cello has inspired me is Sedona, Arizona. And for me, Venetian plaster has such an organic movement.
Why Sedona? I'm just curious. Where did Sedona come from?
If you close your eyes, right, and imagine yourself in a valley in Sedona and listen to the cello bouncing off the valleys. For me, that's what it makes me feel.
I mean, as a designer, Cortland, you need to step back and look at how insane that looks. That looks crazy. That looks like a clown car exploded onto that corner of your patio.
Did you express all of your visions of what your instruments were at the very beginning? Did you say Sedona? Did you say New York? And did you say, oops, that's not going to work? Or are you just figuring it out right now?
Here's the problem. Each and every one of us had the same exact passion for what we were doing. The problem is that we were out of tune as a band.
Tom, you look like you want to say something.
I think it started to fragment at the very beginning because the dynamics of the first project were so successful that we just translated onto the second project. And I think it became, I know what we're going to do, and I want to do this wall with the cello and this paint. The team was split, I'll put it that way.
I think we could have done a better job of sitting together as a team and really listen to everybody. And that wasn't done.
I think we actually have a lot to discuss, and we'd really appreciate it if you guys would step out and allow us to deliberate.
Thank you.
You know, there's a lot of talent up there, but you can't start as individuals and then come together as a group. You have to start as a group and let the individual come through.
All right, let's talk about Trent.
When Vern asks you a specific question, and then you throw my name into the mix, we are all responsible
All
for
I
this
said
loss.
was you guys had slam dunked the first round. We took the leadership from the first round and brought it to the second round, and it wasn't the right dynamic. You know, if you come up with an idea, you were so successful the first round, I don't feel super comfortable questioning the orange wall.
No, but you should have. That's
Maybe
what I'm
I
saying.
should have, but
yeah, absolutely.
You really disappointed me. You're the type of guy that
Blaming.
saves himself on a sinking ship.
You know what? You say, oh, you threw me under a bus. I wasn't having him thrown under the bus.
Horrible. There's nothing else to talk about, guys. It was horrible.
So, do we feel like we've come to a conclusion, we're unanimous on this decision?
Once again.
All right, let's bring them back in. Gentlemen, you failed to present us with a cohesive design while still showcasing your individual inspirations. So the bottom two this week are Alex. And Trent. Your designs landed you here in the bottom two. However, this competition is about both design and hosting. The winner gets their own television show, so you have to be able to do both components. We're now going to watch your host presentations. So Alex, let's start with your host presentation.
I'm Alex Sanchez. Music has always been an inspiration for so many things. This time, music has been inspiration for our redesign of this New York City patio. For me, particularly, it has been the congos. And the first thing I wanted to incorporate was this curve of this deck. From Alex Sanchez.
Okay. So Trent, let's look at your host presentation, please.
Hey, my name is Trent Holgren, and we're in New York City, a great place for outdoor space. I was really inspired in this space with the keyboard, which is one of the instruments I play. I think it's a lot of fun. It reminds me of a lot.
All right, gentlemen, we have seen enough. Give us a few moments to discuss. We will be back with our decision. All right, gentlemen, we have reached a decision, and it is unanimous.
Could I say something real quick? This is an interesting process for me. I'm a pretty easygoing guy, and I think that there is some tension in the sense of, like, there's some strong personalities, and that's just not who I am. And some people are really comfortable with it. Some people thrive in that, and I just don't.
Well, that's funny that you say that. You know, Trent, we're seeing you fade into the background with your design, and that's not something that you can do when you have your own television show.
Right.
And I think it's become very, very evident to us that you are not ready for your own primetime show. So, Trent, you have been eliminated.
Thank you very much. All the best to you guys.
Thanks, Trent.
People definitely are getting really tense. You know, people talking over each other and fighting for opinions, and my creativity gets really stifled in that process. That's just not where I thrive. So that hurt me in this competition.
Gentlemen, what you're going through right now is hard. But somebody in this competition is going to end up being one of us. So, going forward, please keep that in mind. We need to see your voices individually and cohesively. Got it?
Got it.
Please exit the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.